Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the Dynasty Arsenal podcast. I am your host, Sammy Stacks, back again this week with my good friend and co-host, Tags. Tags, how are you doing? How did you enjoy the first weekend of football?
I'm just stoked that football's back, to be honest. It felt so nice just sitting down watching all the games. For
Yeah.
fantasy, it went pretty well. Every team I was hoping would win won, except for my home league where I lost by half a point when the other team had both Caleb Williams and JJ McCarthy, and
Oh,
got me at the very end by half a point. But other than that, not too bad.
your home league's a Superflex?
Yes.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. I've never played in a Superflex redraft league.
Uh,
I might have to.
It's pretty. That was actually my first introduction to Superflex. We started doing 2QB about 12 years ago, and I was at the time I'm just like, what is this? You can start two
Yeah,
quarterbacks? This is crazy.
crazy.
So I like to think my home league was a little bit ahead of the curve with doing Superflex like 12 years ago.
Yeah,
Truly doing it before it was cool.
I mean, yeah, now like for Dynasty, obviously that's the complete norm. I wouldn't touch a non-Superflex Dynasty league, but
Right.
for redraft, I've always only ever played one QB, but I think next year maybe I'll dip my toes in the water, see what that's about. Yeah. My experience of the weekend, I was just sitting there shocked at what was unfolding. Everything seemed to just be, I felt like I was living in the upside down. We had the barn burner that was the Steelers and the Jets.
Right.
Um,
The game we
like
thought
I was
would be
expect
like a 12 to like 7 kind of finish.
that game had 12-9 written all over it. You know what I mean? And then you have like the Bengals and Browns was like two terrible defenses, the top scoring team from last year, and they just nothing was, it hit the under.
Honestly,
It was
that was a
unbelievable.
battle of two teams who were trying, they were both trying desperately to lose the game. Neither one won,
Yeah.
neither one was trying to win that game.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Um oh, I figure I'll do my our little flock league update.
Yeah,
1 and
how'd it
0.
go?
1-0.
Off
We
to a good
we took
start.
down the Devs. We're recording this on Tuesday. The video would have come out this morning, early this morning. So if anybody's seen that, you already know. But
And
we
if you
beat the
haven't,
Devs.
we have a little spoiler alert for you.
There you go. Yeah. Okay. Well, too late now. That's fine.
It's
You
too
should have
late.
watched the
We
video.
did the spoiler alert
You're like,
after we told them
yeah.
that Thanos kills half the people.
Yeah, it came down to Monday night. I was sweating. I needed less than 17 points from DeAndre Swift and the Vikings defense. And I was doing math about if Swift scores, the Vikings defense loses 3 points, but
Right?
he gets six. It was just a
The
mess.
team
I did
takes
not
two
enjoy
steps
that game
forward,
at
one
all.
step back.
Exactly. Yeah. So it really came down to the wire. I won by like a point and a half in the end.
Oof.
So
All that matters is you got the dub,
but
though.
yeah, sweated it out. We got the dub, 1-0. I got Thomas, the editor, coming up this week. I lost George Kittle. That's the big thing.
Yeah,
Kittle to the
Kittle
IR.
to the IR is brutal.
Absolutely terrible. It does, if Purdy stays healthy, if he plays, it does inadvertently help Pearsall, who I also have.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Um,
Pearsall is going to be the main riser with Kittle going out.
oh my
Um,
God, Jennings is hurt. They just signed
I'm not,
Kendrick Bourne.
I'm not
Like, yeah,
sure they can physically give Christian McCaffrey any more of a workload
no.
there. So
31 touches is absurd for a guy with his
yeah,
injury history.
it seems like Jawan Jennings also missed the injury bug. Seems like he'll be
Well, he
okay.
got banged up though.
Yeah, he
He
got
got
banged
banged
up.
up
It
with a.
seems like he'll be okay though. So
Okay, yeah,
if he's all good, it seems like to me it seems like Pearsall and Jennings is going to get the production increase there, but we'll see.
yeah. But then if Purdy doesn't play, it's a wash. Like it's over.
Hey man, there's Mac Jones slander here.
Well, Mac Jones did produce Brian Thomas incredible end of the year last year, so maybe I should have some
Yeah,
hope.
Pearsall's going to have 20 targets and he's going to go for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. And
That'd be incredible. And on my bench because I benched him for J.K. Dobbins or
yeah, of
something.
course.
Yeah. So I picked up Hunter Henry to throw in the tight end spot.
Who against the
It was
Dolphins this
tough
year?
against the Dolphins this week, so it's a good matchup. It was him or I was looking at Jawan Johnson as well, who had 11 targets from Spencer
Yeah,
Rattler. But if I don't know, like who's more likely to score a touchdown? Probably Henry against the Dolphins as opposed to Jennings against the Niners. So tight end, it's just throwing darts, right? Like especially this is why I drafted one so early because I didn't want to have to play this stupid game,
yeah. When you have
and now
to
I'm playing it for a
when you
month.
have to play the game of roulette when it's you're choosing between Henry or Jawan Johnson or like a Cade Otton, that kind of tier of tight ends,
Yeah,
really just like
disgusting.
focus on who's going to get the most volume and then hope for the best.
Yeah, I was also I was thinking about going after Fannin really hard after the weekend he had, but I just thought I'm not gonna start him in week two. I can't do that, so I'm gonna have two. I'm gonna have Fan and somebody else, and then Kittle in the IR. I just wasn't gonna commit my roster to that. So we'll see how Henry does. Hopefully, I can go 2-0 here without my third round pick. You'll have to tune in next week to find out.
Yeah, you got to leave him on a cliffhanger. That's how we get him back.
That's how we get him. Exactly. All right, so moving into the meat and potatoes of the pod here, we're gonna do some. It's a cliche, but we're gonna do some dynasty risers and fallers from week one. Now we're well
Risers
aware
and Fallers, week
that
one in Dynasty? What?
you should not drastically overreact to a 1 week sample. 1 week samples lie. Week one is a liar. We all know this. But we can come into the season with some priors, and some can be confirmed, and some can be flipped. And so we're just bringing a few names that we believe, because of what we saw in week one, that their value actually has drastically changed. Now, I know for some of mine, it's because I wasn't valuing them before, and now I should be. Maybe the public value hasn't gone up a ton, but we're here to give our opinions.
Yeah, and I think it
Tags, do you want
I
to
think it
go ahead?
also I think it also gives some clarity to seeing all these different players in different situations, whether they went to a different team, whether they got new coaching staff coming in. I think the biggest thing I noticed from week one was that all the teams that had an offensive coach coming in took a huge jump up in the offense. And we also saw that on the flip side of that is a lot of teams that lost their offensive coaches took a big step back. You saw the Lions really struggle on
Oh yeah,
offense. You saw the Bucks for most of the game struggle on offense.
yeah,
But I think, yeah, week one for Dynasty, I think it's important to see how the players fit into their new system because a lot of that changes the value of that player for 2, 3, 4 years. Um,
absolutely.
and so I think week one, you get a little bit of an insight to see how the players are going to be used and how the coaching staff is going to react to this new player base coming in, how they're going to be. I think you get to see a lot of like their usage from week one.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of tells, and you have to weed through what is the truth, what is a matchup play, right?
Yeah.
Like it could just be a lot of teams where maybe the passing ball, the Chargers is one that everybody's talking about right now. Is that a team that's going to be passing the ball a lot more, or was that they're playing the Chiefs and they know that they got to score points? It's where is the truth there? And that's a situation where you need a few more weeks to find out exactly what's going on. Um, but like we said, there are a few guys here where we believe their value has drastically changed, and we're gonna sort of present those arguments to you. So, Tags, why don't you start us off
All
here?
right. You talked about the Chargers, so I'm just going to jump right in.
Oh,
I'm
there we
doing,
go.
I'm, don't hate me. I'm kind of back in on QJ.
Oh my god.
Okay, hear me out. First off, did you see the TikTok video that went out where it was like basically like the text was like what Brazilians think QJ is, and it was just a compilation
Oh
of
yeah.
highlights of from Calvin Johnson just like mossing three people.
Yeah.
And it's like if you're from Brazil, you've never seen a game of football before, but you went to that game, QJ is like the freaking goat to you. Like you're
Absolutely.
watching that guy just balling out.
Yeah.
But I think I feel like we could see a progression jump like we did with Devonte Adams. Devonte Adams, the first 2 years, could not catch a ball. He had so many dropped passes. Very similar to QJ. And QJ kind of comps pretty well to Devonte Adams in terms of physicality. And
Yeah.
a lot of the I guess the talk around QJ is that he's a body catcher. He can't catch the ball. But it's it's kind of like once you get this like thought process in your head of like this person can't catch the ball, it's hard to like break out of that thought process and be like, oh, they can catch the ball now. They just had to spend
Hmm.
an off season nonstop catching drills to kind of actually build up that and kind of coach the body catching out of them. And we saw it in that game. He had a lot of plays that game where he was outstretched, snagging it out of the air. I saw very little body catching that first game from him, and we know once he gets the ball in his hand, he's great. Like he's good for after the catch. He's an explosive player. He just needs to catch the ball. And it's only week one, but I saw a lot of positive things with him fighting for the ball and actually getting full reach on a target that was coming his way. And then we get to see Greg Roman just went into the lab this offseason and got creative with the offense. Like, it might be too soon to say it, but I think the Chargers are actually fun again. We
Hmm.
expected a run heavy offense, but they came out. They had one play in particular, I remember, where they did a play action, faked it to one side, came back with a fake screen on the other side, and then he launched it deep. And that's like a
Hmm.
kind of offensive creativity we hadn't seen last year from him. So
Hmm.
I'm back in on QJ. I think if I can buy him for a second round pick and I need wide receiver help, I think they're going to be throwing a lot more than we thought this year. And it's going to be very clearly divided up between Ladd, QJ, and Keenan. I don't expect them to throw the ball as much as they did that this past game. Uh, but I think he's going to have steady volume as long as he continues to show his progression in catching the ball.
I really like it, honestly. I think that, and you mentioned his price. I genuinely think that the QJ owner would run to the bank with a second round pick.
Yeah,
You
I,
know,
th- I think it's a
like
very
I
attainable asset to be had in Dynasty.
absolutely, because I think a lot of people will hear this potentially and or will look at their QJ stock and go, "Oh, I get to capitalize on a big week one and ship them off for a second round pick." I think that I would start lower than that. I would throw a third and like if you've got like some bench guy that maybe did a little something in week one, Juju, or like I would trade Hollywood Brown in a third for Quentin Johnston, like something like that where you don't even have to pay that asset that I think because I would look at it where I think a second can get you something a lot better than Cuge,
Yeah, but if you're
whereas you don't.
projected as a contender, you need a wide receiver
It's a
for
fine price.
depth, and you know that second's going to be a late one. I'm taking QJ with that.
Yeah,
He looks
yeah,
great,
I'm
and
with you.
also side note, that offensive line is so good for the Chargers. They struggled in the run, but Joe Alt is already like Pro Bowl caliber. He's everything
Hmm.
he was hyped up to be. Chris Jones went up against him 4 times, had zero pressures on 4 times. It was like he ran into a brick wall. Um,
Yeah, and they're without Rashawn Slater, right?
oh, yeah,
Like
dude. Imagine
it's
this
only
this
gonna get
offensive
better.
line with Rashawn Slater. It's such a bummer he's out for the year.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, terrible.
but I think there's going to be some growing pains for Hampton. Hampton's going to be fine, but I think this offense is just kind of so explosive pass wise, and their offensive
Hmm.
line can hold up and give Herbert time. I think Harbaugh's going to see that and just be like, you know what, let's air it out, loosen up the defense, and
Yeah,
then the run game might be an afterthought, might be a second thought once we've loosened up the defense, had them move them to a two shell high, uh, move the linebackers a little bit, then we switch to Hampton rather than Hampton
yeah,
being
and
the focus like we all thought he would be.
Absolutely. And, Keenan is not going to be there forever, obviously, right? So I think while it could be a little difficult this year with the target share not being through the roof because he's getting out targeted by Keenan and by Ladd. Long term, I mean, Ladd and Cuge, if Cuge does turn into what you're presenting that he could be here, that is a perfect wide receiver pairing for a competitive team.
Yeah, absolutely. And also shout out
Yeah.
Keenan Allen. That dude's always just finds some way to be productive.
Dude,
Last year
oh
he
my
had he
God.
had a nice stretch of weeks where he was a great wide receiver too with the
I don't know where
Bears.
the idea that I have no idea where the idea that he was washed came from. Like he was getting drafted in redraft leagues like outside the top 60 wide
Yeah.
receivers. It was insane.
I think it didn't help that he was on he just didn't have a team for a while. But listen, you're a vet.
But he's old. He doesn't want to
You're
do
a
camp.
32-year-old wide receiver. I'd be
Yeah.
skipping camp too. I'd be like, yeah,
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't need it the way that like we're talking about Quinshawn. How long is it going to take him to get used to the offense and everything? Keenan has played 13 years, like or whatever
yeah.
he's played. Like he does not need that whole camp period to understand what's going on.
So yeah,
Um,
Chargers offense as a whole, very fun.
yeah, yeah. I like the huge pick. My first one, I got I'm coming out early and I'm showing my true colors. I got to eat some humble pie here, okay? Because I have been the biggest Brees Hall hater
Oh
that
man,
you will
we've
find.
had so many arguments about Brees Hall this offseason,
We
and
have.
I was a
We
little
have.
bit victory lapping after this Sunday.
I mean, I don't blame you because I'm coming on here and saying that from where I valued him previously, Brees Hall has risen drastically. I was
He
extremely
has
low
risen.
on Brees. He has risen. I was extremely low on Brees coming into the season, and he was obviously disappointing for fantasy last year. And it looked like the Jets' offense was going to suck. Right? They were projected bottom 10 in scoring for the year. Fields, we know that he can't pass until this week, obviously. And the talk out of camp all summer was about how this is going to be a committee and Braylon Allen is going to get involved and Brees Hall is not this coaching staff's guy. He said it himself. He said, I'm not their guy. They didn't draft
Yeah,
me.
all the talk out of camp was
And
like, I don't know what they want. I don't know if they're going to re-sign me. I don't know what my role is here. That
exactly.
was all the talk from Breeze. So
He was saying
that has
he
it.
was saying I know that I'm a three down back, but
Yeah,
I don't know if they're going to use me like that.
the hesitation was warranted.
Yeah, and so I didn't like it at all. And I think because of all that, Aaron Glenn is going to take a big hit in reliability on the coach speak index. I just want to put that out there because he's a liar. We know this now. But in week one, I was glued to that Jets Steelers game. I have Justin Fields in the flock league. Brees gets all the work. He looked explosive as hell. So much better than anything I saw from him last year.
He also looks
Like
so much
he
better than Braylon Allen or Isaiah Davis,
yeah,
which
breaking
is a
off
big key there.
Yeah, breaking off long run after long run, chunk play after chunk play. He just looks shifty. He looks quick. Last year, like it looked like he had cement in his shoes, and this year he just looks out of the gates super fast. Like you said, Braylon Allen, I think he was 6 for 9,
Yeah, nothing.
and he did take the touchdown. He vultured the goal line, which isn't great, and having Justin Fields there also not great in terms of the goal line share. I don't love that outlook. But Tanner Engstrand is the offensive coordinator here. And he was the passing game coordinator for the Lions from 2022 to 2024, the exact same period that Ben Johnson was the OC. So there's an easy path to see here that he has just sort of unlocked Justin Fields. And that's what Brees needs. Brees needs Justin Fields to be able to operate this offense. And it looks like he can do it. Maybe Aaron Rodgers was the problem last year. He got them to hire Nathaniel Hackett, who was the worst offensive coordinator in the league last year. He gets everybody fired. It's a terrible situation. Maybe Aaron Glenn, Tanner Engstrand bring a little more stability to this, and he's able to produce as a RB1 this year. And this is why I think his dynasty value has risen so much, because I think that this offense could be really good this year. They could be top half in efficiency and scoring, all that kind of stuff. And even if Brees isn't their guy, and even if they don't re-sign him, he could be a huge free agent fish in 2026, and he could end up in the Cowboys could sign him, the the Chiefs could sign him, a team that like it's not just this year where Justin Fields probably isn't the long term answer. The Jets probably will go somewhere else at some point. I think Breeze could find himself in an even better situation from 2026 onward. And so he's firmly back in the top 12 dynasty running back conversation for me.
Also, shout out to Mimbu because he was opening up running lanes left and right for Brees Hall.
He looks legit at right
Yeah.
tackle. Absolutely.
Um,
Yeah.
and also, Brees Hall got some passing work, which was a lot of our concern with Justin Fields going in because Fields historically hasn't really been able to produce a decent receiving workload running back.
Hmm.
And Brees was getting screens, he was getting dump offs, something we haven't seen in the past from Justin Fields. So I think that,
He just looked incredible.
yeah, and dude, he looks so much faster than last year. You said it before, but
Yeah.
like as a Brees owner, watching him play last year, it's like, man, like where's the next gear? Like you're
Yeah.
just waiting for him to hit that next speed notch, and it just never happened. So to see him come out looking explosive again, maybe he just need another year removed from the ACL injury.
Yeah.
Not
Could be.
everyone can recover from an ACL injury like Adrian Peterson.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I really like I'm going to maybe if a contender's trying to sell him, I might try and buy. I don't have any shares right now cuz I was really out. So I've got some I'm longing for some
Well,
Breeze.
good luck because I'm pretty sure in all our leagues I've got Brees everywhere. I scooped him up as much as I could this offseason.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me
All right, hit me with your
let
next
me
one.
sell you on a guy. Let me just give you a little blind resume.
Okay.
This guy was a top 40 recruit coming out of high school. He was the number three wide receiver prospect heading into college. Signed with LSU, which may be the biggest giveaway. Was the fastest wide receiver in LSU history to get to 100 receptions. And he was the wide receiver one over Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr., Jack Besh, which I didn't realize he played for LSU that long,
Yeah, he was on that team.
Trey Palmer, all these NFL wide receivers. He was wide receiver one over them in 2021. Um, and this guy is obviously Kayshawn Booty.
Booty.
Booty. Um, I love this guy. This guy was supposed to be crowned the next big wide receiver coming out of LSU after Jamar Chase.
Hmm.
His college career got sidelined by some ankle injuries. He missed pretty much half of 2022 and half of 2021 with this injury, and it also bled over into the NFL Combine. So his draft
Hmm.
stock just got tanked because of this ankle injury. But 2022, he started off that season going for 600 yards receiving and nine touchdowns before the ankle injury just took him out for the season. And his role with the Patriots is pretty solidified. He is the clear receiver that does something that none of the other receivers can do. He's a big body guy, 6'4", is very fast. He's faster than his NFL combine time, which would say. In this game, he was the only receiving option that was getting consistent production. They really struggled against the Raiders this past week. I think May holds onto the ball a bit too long, combined with a struggling offensive line, is like a rough combination of things that happen.
Yeah.
But Booty consistently got open. The entire game was pretty much the main bright spot in that offense. And I think he's the wide receiver one for the Patriots moving forward.
Mm.
I think he might trade off every now and then with Diggs, which is kind of funny because coming out of the draft, his main NFL prospect he was linked to was Stephon Diggs. He has kind of a Stephon Diggs profile,
Wow.
except he's a little bit bigger bodied than Diggs is.
Hmm.
So I'm buying him everywhere. I bought him. I think I showed you my shares percentage. I've got like 70% booty shares and bought
Hmm.
him everywhere this offseason because he's a clear wide receiver in that offense that can provide something that no other receiver can do. There's a lot of slot
Hmm.
receivers in that offense and only one big bodied outside receiver. And
Yeah, and even
we
yeah.
also saw him light on fire the second half of last year. Like he was May's number one target the second half of last season, and we're seeing that carry over into this season already. So I'm pretty high on him, and I loved what I saw this past week from him.
Yeah, I think you're in a situation where there's wide open. It's a wide open competition for targets, and he towards the back end of last year really built up a rapport with May, and looked great in week one. And even if Stephon Diggs, he looked meh coming off the ACL. Um, Even if he does step up a little bit, that's probably good for Booty. It's not enough competition to have you worried. Um, And again, from a dynasty context, Diggs is old. Hunter Henry is a jag.
Yeah,
I think that Booty could be one of those guys where the talent's always been there. There's other circumstances on why he wasn't touted so highly coming into the NFL. And yeah, he could absolutely break onto the scene. He's one of the biggest topics in waiver wire conversations today. So I think that's a great pick. And again, another guy who, is it a fluke at the end of last year where he puts up whatever he put up? I think he has 100 yards in 3 of his last 4 games or something like
yeah.
that. It doesn't seem to be a fluke. Even Vrabel, new coaching staff, and Vrabel wants him out there, and he's using him a lot.
And almost exclusively, he's going to get all of the deep targets. Like
Yeah.
he's such a good contested receiver. And May loves chucking up those 20 to 40 yard kind of intermediate to deep passes. And every time is to booty.
Hmm.
Every time. So I think there's a clear role for him. There's clear connection with May. And I'm stoked that it's already kind of showing off in week one.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. My next guy, I have a pair, and they kind of go hand in
I wonder if
hand
it's the same pair
because
that I have.
they are both. I have two rookie tight ends that I want to talk about.
Okay.
The first one being Tyler Warren.
He's next
It
on my
is
list.
hard. It is hard to gain so much value from you were just a late first round rookie pick, but Tyler Warren looks insane. Looks like everything he was billed to be as a prospect. That gritty, yards after catch, contested receiver, everything that you would want. The prototypical tight end, right? He led the Colts in targets and receptions in week one. He even had a rushing attempt. I could see Shane Steichen wanting to use him a little bit how he was used at Penn State. In the I don't know if he's gonna put him at Wildcat quarterback, but getting those rushing attempts, um, moving him all over the formation, right? Like this is not a guy who's only working in line, who's only working in the slot. Like he is moving out wide, he is all over the field. There's a clear need for an alpha in that offense. And he could absolutely be the Bowers of this year so very easily. He's immediately after week one my tight end 3 in Dynasty. And I'm debating right now if he should be in the tier with McBride and Bowers. He looked that good. And I just think that he's the dude. I think he's going to be the dude for a long time. Daniel Jones, obviously it's the Dolphins defense. We'll have to see in week 2, but Daniel Jones looks like he can be competent in this offense.
And that's all
And
Shane Steichen needs. Shane Steichen is
oh,
legitimately a good offensive coach, and I think he just needs a quarterback that can operate that system effectively. And Daniel Jones is kind of perfect for that.
mhm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think that by the end of this year, Tyler Warren is going to be a. I think in January he could be a second round startup pick, going right next to McBride, if not ahead of him because of the age.
Yeah, I mean, 31% target share in week one. The majority of elite tight ends hover between 22 to 28% target share per week. I don't expect him to keep up a 30% plus target share, but that's really just saying even if he drops down in production, if he drops 5 to 10% of the target shares, he's still already an elite company. So the way they used him, that offense is going to run. It kind of runs through Warren. Like they used him um, out wide. They used him in the slot. They used him at running back. They use him in motion a lot to free him up. And it
Hmm.
seems like the offensive game plan is really focused around getting Warren the mismatches he needs and then taking advantage of that. So I
Yeah.
also have him on
Yeah.
my list, and I have him on here. It's not as spicy as your take, but I have him locked in as a top five dynasty tight end, um,
Yeah.
barring any kind of injury. Just from what I saw in week one, like he's gonna be a key piece in that offense with a great offensive minded coach who can get him the ball and get him open on mismatches. So I think it's just like such a great pairing, and seeing Daniel Jones excel in that offense also uh, gives me pretty hyped for the Colts. And yeah,
This
Tyler
is,
Warren,
yeah.
he's just such a monster.
And I think that after week one, it's there's always a bit of a standoff of do you be hyper aggressive in believing something and paying up for it, right? It's very hard for people to pay something that would have been insane 10 days ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So would you pay, I don't know, Colston Loveland and a 2 for Tyler Warren?
yeah, for sure. Because
I would
I
do
think
it. I would do that so easily.
That Bears offense is just too saturated with talent. And I think there's going to be a lot of weeks like this week already. Loveland was pretty minimal in the offense. But even when he's more involved and that offense is humming, I think there's just when there's that many receiving options on the same team, it just creates too much of an opportunity for him to just vanish.
Hmm.
So
And
Warren,
and so that's not like,
Warren,
go
I
ahead.
don't think. I guess I didn't see the same usage from the Bears using Loveland as I did Warren. Whereas Warren, like, it seems like he's going to get a lot of manufactured touches and a lot of forced mismatches every single week with how they're using him. And I didn't see that same usage
Yeah,
from Loveland. But
not at all.
obviously it's
And
week
that's
one.
not
Could change, but
exactly. And Loveland could have a huge game next week. And this is not, Loveland is not on my fallers list. I do not think that week one is a disaster for
yeah.
Loveland. But Warren showed me enough that I would pay that right now to get him, to secure him. The other rookie tight end that I also has skyrocketed in value is Harold Fannin.
So
So Harold Fannin,
so Fannin is part of my duo list. So I'll let you talk about Fannin and
okay,
then I'll go into my thoughts about Fannin and the rookie he's duoed with.
that'll be good, perfect. So Harold Fannin, a little less talked about around draft season. He was an elite producer in college. He played at Bowling Green, so obviously not the craziest competition,
Ohio,
but Ohio, exactly. He led the NCAA in receiving last year. All players, not just tight ends, all
which is
players.
wild.
Um, which is insane. He was their entire offense. They used him all over the place. He was getting like 15 targets a game. It was ridiculous. But in week one against the Bengals, he played 72% of the snaps versus 84% for David Njoku. Now, coming into the year, a lot of he was left for dead. Njoku's the guy in that offense, and that was seen as widely true. And he fell to the third round of rookie drafts, even though he was a third round pick and he had all that production, because he got drafted to a place that already had a solidified tight end. And not a lot of teams, like it's been what since Gronk and Aaron Hernandez, that two tight ends have been fantasy relevant on the same squad.
Yeah.
So, but he was fourth in expected fantasy points among tight ends in week one. That's from Hayden Winks on Twitter. Fourth in expected fantasy points. He ran 32 out of 48 routes in his first ever game. it seems that the Browns are favoring the two tight end sets with Fannin operating as sort of a big slot as opposed to 11 personnel with like an Isaiah Bond or a Jamari Thrash as the wide receiver three. And so if that continues and he's not the prototypical tight end build. He's a little leaner, he's a little smaller. But if he's operating as that big slot and David Njoku is still the tight end, Joe Flacco is going to throw the ball. They're going to be down in games. I think that he could end up being a guy that you're throwing in your lineup come week 4 or 5 as a rookie. And David Njoku could be a guy that maybe gets dealt to a team that's trying to make a Super Bowl run near the trade deadline. So I just think this is an opportunity to take advantage. Also, he's wearing number 44, which is sick.
Pretty
I
rad.
wish Tyler Warren was doing that for Indy. I really wish because that is so cool.
Yeah, I kind of look at Fannin as a power slot more than a tight end. He's
Yeah.
like I don't think they, especially if the Browns can kind of win this year, which their defense looks legit. They they held the Bengals to 7 yards in the entire second half of that game, which is insane to think about given the talent on the Bengals. So I think I don't think Njoku gets traded because they need a tight end like Njoku for that to work. Um,
Hmm.
but I think that means Fannin can still be productive if you kind of view him as a power slot wide receiver, not a tight end. He has a tight end
Mm-hmm.
tag, but in reality, the way he plays is a power slot, which fits perfectly in that offense.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that, if you can, maybe you're on a team where you're not necessarily trying to contend, but you're trying to maximize value. Maybe you've stockpiled a bunch of picks. I would pay a late two right now. I think you saw enough in his first game to warrant that price tag.
Yeah,
And
and I'm sure in tight end premium leagues, I doubt people will want to sell Fannin for a late second. I would imagine. I feel like it's almost too enticing to hold him and see what he becomes.
yeah, absolutely. It will be hard to grab him, but if you can, I know I'm in a league. We drafted this offseason and we had Njoku as our starter, and I did it with a buddy. But we have Njoku as our starter, and we paid up. It was an auction. We paid up a little bit for Fannin to get that insurance, and now it's looking like we just might have two tight ends.
Which hey, they can still be played in the flex anyway. So if
Yeah,
if they're
exactly,
productive,
exactly.
who cares?
Why not?
It's funny because Fannin, you know who Fannin reminds me of is Marquez Colston, the old Saints receiver.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
And he kind of plays the same role that Colston played with the Saints back in like the 2010s. He's just kind of this there's a big-bodied power slot that looks like a
hmm,
tight end, but plays like a wide receiver.
yeah,
And his usage in week one was kind of exactly how the Saints used to use Marquez Colston. So it's kind of I was getting like little flashbacks watching that game and be like, I have seen
yeah.
this before, but where? And that's exactly who I'm thinking of is Colston. Um, did you have any more inputs on Fannin?
No, no. I think we're there. Who was your pairing for him?
My pairing is Dylan Sampson. So
Okay. Yeah.
the Browns' offensive line is god awful, terrible. I'm not concerned when Judkins gets back for Dylan Sampson. Uh, I think Judkins has a clear first and second down role. I don't think he's going to be used in the passing offense that much. And given how bad their offensive line is, it kind of works out perfectly for a pass catching running back to be productive. They're the quickest dump off for the quarterback. They can be used on kind of some draw plays on third down. I think, and he already was productive in week one. Like he was used out of the backfield a lot. He was used in motion. They kind of had a game plan already and set for him. So I think he's going to still remain productive, almost like a James White for the Patriots back in the day.
Hmm.
I think he's going to be he's a clear third down role. He's got some explosiveness to him. And I think that offense is set up in a way where their offensive line is awful, which I think is a negative for Judkins and a positive for Samson. So
Hmm.
I love buying Samson right now, especially if you can get him for like a late second. It seems like these mid to late seconds are all the people we're talking about today. But
Yeah, I think it's I'll get to a guy who I think will be a little more than that, but I think it's a good price range where seconds can be viewed in many different ways,
yeah,
and an early second is incredibly different than a late second,
yeah,
right? And so I think trying to take advantage of that subjectivity of the value is a thing that a lot of sharp managers will be trying to do. And I think with Samson, I think it makes a lot of sense, and I think that there will be a window potentially if it comes out that Quinshon is starting against whoever they're playing on the weekend. That could be a great window to be like, okay, I'll trade for the back to the for the quote unquote backup. If you believe that he's going to retain this role, and what would he catch 8 balls on the weekend?
yeah. I feel
I think he had 8 receptions.
Yeah, I feel like he's a pretty good lock to at least have a floor in receiving. So I think
They clearly don't care about Jerome Ford.
no, and Jerome Ford looked
Like
terrible.
he did nothing. He looked awful, and he didn't know he was not
But
used.
I don't think Judkins is going to be any better. That offensive line is just in shambles. Like
Without
I don't think
yeah
there's a single offensive lineman on that O line this year that'll be starting next year. Like they need to spend
yeah
hefty draft capital to fix that offensive line. So I don't think it's going to be better for Judkins. I think he's going to run into a wall just like Jerome Ford was. Uh,
I do think he'll flash a little. I think he'll flash more, and he'll show a lot more promise than what Jerome Ford did. Quinshon Judkins was a fantastic
oh
prospect,
yeah,
and I think that he is definitely the better back between the two, between him and Samson. So I'm not as bullish on this as you are. I think that while he could retain the third down role, and that could be very good for this season, long term, how valuable is that? If it's a situation where we're seeing a split like Derrick Henry, Justice Hill, for example, how valuable is that third down role? I think that Quinshon will be the guy going forward now that all of that legal stuff is cleared up. But if you need to start this week, you don't have to treat Samson like a rookie, right? Like if you pay a late second for a guy that you think you can flex a few times, that's probably fine.
and he's going to be a valuable handcuff if Judkins ever goes
Absolutely.
down.
Yeah.
So I
Without a
think
doubt.
there's kind
Without a
of
doubt.
baked in value there, and he
Mm-hmm.
still has production for a contending team, which is a balance that I think is really pivotal to find as a contending team. Is where can I find young, valuable players that don't cost that much a second, and I can also that also have some valuable weeks ahead of them for production. So it's hard to find that
Yeah.
mix, and I feel like Samson kind of fits that role perfectly. Where if I'm a contender, I'd like love to send a late second just to get Samson and have some depth.
Mm-hmm. I like it. Um, my next guy here, who I don't think could be had for a late second, is Keon Coleman.
Dude, did you steal my list? He's that's
I'm
that's the next name on my list.
Wow, great minds, I guess.
Yeah,
I am fully bought into this.
dude, he looked
I think
great.
that he looked incredible. I think this is the classic year two wide receiver breakout. He played 88% of the snaps in week one against the Ravens. He looks sharp. He looks healthy. He dealt with a few nagging injuries last year as a rookie. He was 8 for 11 for 112 yards and a touchdown. Incredible day. Incredible day. I also noticed several red zone targets.
Yeah,
Josh just kept on chucking it to him in the end zone over and over and over again. He really seems like and I noticed this a little bit last year. Constantly, the Bills are in these primetime games down to the wire all the time, right? In all of these big moments, Keon is just getting targeted over and over again. it's a big third down. It's a gotta have it touchdown. Keon just seems to be Josh Allen's guy. If you're that guy for a top 3 QB in the league, that is so incredibly valuable. We saw what Stephon Diggs was able to do with Josh Allen. I think there's a very delicate balance here between overreacting to it and dismissing it. Josh Allen's not gonna. They're not gonna score 41 points every game. They're not gonna need to throw it as much as they did. They were down 15 points in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
I think this is kind of like maybe a. This is similar to the Cuge situation where there's been a lot of people down on Keon, not only as a prospect but then after not so great year one, and now I think there is an opportunity to go to the Keon manager and maybe they're gonna run with an early second plus a little bit of a sweetener because they think that this is a one-off and they think that who he is the guy he was last year, and they were trying to sell him all off season and nobody wanted him, and now they're going to be able to get out. I think there's a clear opportunity there, and I do think that we could say it's only week one, right? It's a one-game sample size. It's tiny. You can't. Week one is a liar. All this stuff, but to me, this seems like a guy where he could end up a top 15 wide receiver on the season, and we could look back at week one and be like, the signs were all there.
Yeah, I love it. He seems like the like Shakir gets all the hype in that offense, but I think last year a lot of it can be chalked up to Coleman just dealing with so many injuries. He had a really solid camp. He's healthy, and already is commanding. I mean, 11 targets isn't something to just kind of disregard. Like anytime a receiver gets to double digit targets, it's something to take note of. So I am curious to see if this volume will hold up through future weeks when they don't need to score 41 points and air it out 40 plus times. But I think at the least, like, I think he's a valuable wide receiver two or wide receiver three on your team.
Absolutely. I'm going to be glued to that Bills Jets game on Sunday.
Yeah,
Oh
I
my
think I
gosh.
think usage is going to be really interesting there to see how much they go back to him.
Especially with Sauce Gardner, it's a tough matchup. Obviously that Ravens secondary is incredible. Like they are so that Ravens defense is so good.
Yeah,
The secondary is very good, and he put on a show, and I'm really excited for what Keon can do the rest of the way.
yeah, that's a great one. I have one more, and this one can definitely not be had for a second. My final stock up is, and it's hard to figure out how his stock can go any higher, but it's Bijan Robinson. I think he has to,
Wow.
in startups, I think he has to be in the same tier as the Chase and Jefferson if he isn't already. His usage week one, while pretty ineffective rushing the ball, that was also just kind of the game script of that game. Like Bucky on the other side couldn't really rush the ball very well. Neither team could. Uh, but that team used Bijan everywhere. They used him in the slot. They used him in motion. They used him out wide. They used him on screens.
Hmm.
They're going to find every way possible to get Bijan the ball. That offense is going to run through Bijan. And now that Drake London has a sprained shoulder, his volumes he's going to have like 10 plus targets a game, which as a running back is just insane production to have.
Oh yeah.
It's just I feel like Bijan has such an insane floor uh that I think he's just a stud, man. He's just so good. Um and yeah, he's my riser, which is hard because like okay, instead of the 108, you might be taking him at the 105 in startup drafts.
Well, I think it's important because that's a big decision for people who, startup drafts are filled with just quarterbacks in the first round. And to have the conviction to take Bijan, would you take him over Burrow?
Yeah. I think
Take him over
I
Burrows?
think so I think it goes Jaden, Josh Allen, Lamar, and then I feel like we're in Bijan territory. I think it's really a toss up
Wow.
between Burrow.
So he's in the chase. He's in the chase tier basically.
Yeah, I think I think
I
it's
think that it
depending on
I think
how
he is
you I
rising.
think depending on how you want to build your team out. I think it's really a toss up between Chase, Jefferson, Burrow, maybe Hurts, and then Bijan. It's kind of like pick your
Yeah.
flavor. And I don't think it would be weird to take Bijan at 104.
I think that he definitely is rising to get to that point for you. And I think it's I know people like a lot of people don't want to build around running backs, and I think a lot of um, the talking heads out there in dynasty circles say that it's wide receivers and quarterbacks. And but if you're playing dynasty in a 2 to 3 year outlook, which is how I try to do it most of the
Yeah.
time, what is Bijan barring injury? What stops Bijan from being a top 3, top 5 running back for the next 3 years after this one? Not
Also,
much.
if you were telling me, say, how old is Kamara? 31?
30, 31.
If
Yeah.
you were telling me 8 years ago you could buy Kamara and have him as the 104 in a startup, I think you're like, yeah, I'm taking that. And I think
Yeah.
Bijan's game is similar to Kamara, where he can be productive. And
The
have
contact balance is insane.
Yeah, dude, he's such a good pass catcher too. Like
Hmm.
he could be he could be full-time wide receiver. I'd be like stoked. Be like, great.
Yeah. Yeah,
Let's
absolutely. I mean, they're going to need it with London and Mooney out.
it's the reverse Debo. So
That's awesome.
and
Debo had a great game too. Good for him.
yeah, but Alvin Kamara is the basically the GOAT for fantasy football. Um, Only running back to have I think it's like a top six, finish as a top six running back in like 6+ seasons. The only guy that kind of comes
Yeah.
close to his fantasy profile is LaShawn McCoy. And if you're telling me, and I think Bijan's such a lock to be able to compete with taking over Alvin Kamara's crown as the fantasy football GOAT for
Hmm.
running backs. And if that's the case, a 104 in a startup draft is completely warranted for that production.
Absolutely. I like it. I really like it. It's a little unorthodox, but um, if somebody's hoarding quarterbacks and needs a running back, we're here to tell you it's not crazy to
Yeah.
ship off a Joe Burrow and to get a guy who can be the running back one or in that conversation for the next 3, 4, 5 years. Moving on to fallers. Now, I only have one because I found it very difficult to make any sweeping judgments based on 1 week in the negative direction. I think it's easier to see something and say, okay, I think this will continue to happen when it's good as opposed to when it's bad. That's just my experience
Yeah.
preparing for today's show. But the one guy that I did come up with is Jalen Waddle.
Dude, get out of my head.
It's Is he actually on your
Yeah,
list?
for sure.
That that is insane. Oh my
All right,
gosh.
let's pile
Well,
on Waddle. Waddle, if you're listening,
yeah.
a big fan of the
We are
podcast.
beating this dead horse.
You
Yeah,
might you
this
might
is
you might want to mute the podcast for a few
yeah.
minutes.
Turn it off for 15 minutes. So yeah, I think that it's hard to have a lot of conviction on a dynasty faller after 1 week. But the Dolphins are, that meme where it's like our expectations were low, but holy, like
We
I,
somehow managed
I
to
did
go
not.
lower than the low expectations.
This is Tua looked absolutely terrible. 3 of the worst turnovers that I've seen in a game, back to back to
To
back.
turn the
They
ball
could not
over.
move the ball. Yeah, they could not move the ball at all. Mike McDaniel is just he's in hell right now. He is the betting favorite to be the first coach to be fired. Jalen Waddle, I feel like he's one of those guys where he's been in the league for a while, but everybody still views him as being pretty young. Jalen Waddle will be 27 when the season is over.
Which in Dynasty is like the cliff where their value starts to drop. No matter how productive they
Yeah, look
are,
at it. Like,
once you see that age 27 on their player tab, It's just
Yeah.
naturally you're just like, ooh, I'm not sure I want to buy
For
that.
2 seasons now, people have been saying AJ Brown is kind of at his peak value because he was 27 and now he's 28.
Yeah.
Jalen Waddle, like he's gonna be 27 when the season ends. He's not young anymore. He is now a vet, right? And he's a vet on a bad team and he hasn't produced consistently for 2 years now. If we go through another year this year, like the last two, where he's not a reliable every week put in your lineup guy, it's going to take a lot of convincing for anyone to be in on him next year. And that's even with a new quarterback or a new coaching staff,
So
right?
so my
Because
list, go ahead.
like Tyreek could get traded tomorrow. Tyreek could be on the Chiefs by the end of the year. Who knows, right? He could get moved and he could be a great asset for a championship run. Waddle is locked in through 2028. He's not he's stuck here.
So I have both Tyreek and Waddle on my list
Okay.
because I'm so down on this Dolphins offense as a whole. There was a moment in that game where defense was playing two shell high, two safeties, both corners, middle wide open. Tua could not like figure out to attack that zone. For some reason, they just did not attack any of the weaknesses in the zone that they were playing against. And then halfway through the game, they switched to a single high safety instead of a two shell. And the Dolphins offense did not react anyway. They didn't adjust to it. Tua couldn't read the change in that defense. And that's when those two turnovers happened because they shifted the zone. Tua didn't read that the zone was shifting and changed and just threw it right to the defender. And
It's
my
he's just
the questions last year on this offense were, can they be productive because everyone's injured, but everyone's healthy now. And I think the problem with the offense is not player health. I think the offense is just flawed as a whole. It just doesn't work with their personnel. So I'm
yeah.
super down on Waddle. I don't think there's got to be a new coach by next year. And
There's no way he lasts unless he turns it around like next week.
yeah,
He will like he's the betting favorite for a reason. He will get fired. I heard this on the fantasy footballers yesterday on Monday. Um yeah, Monday, September 8th was the 1 year anniversary of Tyreek Hill's last 30-yard catch.
which is wild. That's
Is
kind of
like
what he's built his
no
entire fantasy football career on.
his entire career is deep ball, speed, run after catch, all this stuff. And they can't use him. Like he was injured last year, and I think that, like I said, I'm more in on Tyreek than Waddle, honestly, in a dynasty context, just because I think that Tyreek could go somewhere and win you a championship this year. I don't think he's toast. I genuinely don't. I just think this offense is toast. I think it's absolutely done, and an interim head coach is not going to help that. And Zach Wilson won't either, by the way. Like it's just a disaster, and I want no part of it.
See, I'm also out on Hill. Um, Receivers that change teams late in their career is always tough to bank on. Like even if I think
Yeah,
the only one that would make sense is the Chiefs because he knows the personnel there, he knows the playbook, knows the scheme, he's already familiar with it all. Anywhere else, I'm totally out on it. Like it's happened to every vet receiver. Julio Jones, who we thought was like impervious to that, got traded to
yeah,
another team, fell off completely.
yeah.
And I would say it's if I were to bet right now, I think it's like an 80% chance he's not with the Dolphins this whole year.
I mean, yeah, I think that's high, but it's not crazy. And we saw last year, like somebody like Amari Cooper, who was fine on the Browns, gets traded to a great offense, falls off the face of the earth, and then he
Yeah.
retires, which was so weird. But like Devontae goes back to Aaron Rodgers, and then he's really good. So I think if it is something like I think I would be more in on It's obviously depending on the landing spot, of course, but I think there's room for Tyreek. I do not think there's any room for Waddle to save it at all this year. And after this year, he's just gonna be a vet who, like, he's gonna be Darnell Mooney. Like, that's just how I see him.
And he's also going to be
He
in
had
limbo
to,
with a whole new coaching staff, assuming he gets
yeah.
fired.
Who knows?
He's
It could
just
be a rookie quarterback.
Yeah, he's just
Like,
going to be in limbo. And if you're a 27-year-old receiver, I don't want you to be in limbo. I want you to be in a situation that's like established. So I have one share of Waddle and I hate it. I don't know what to do with this share because you
yeah.
can't really sell them
I
unless.
One of my favorite trades that I've ever made was, I think it must have been last off season. I traded, I think it was Waddle and a 2 for Nico and a 3. And I had to pay the premium, which wasn't consensus at the time, um, which is crazy to think about now. But I paid up. I did Waddle plus for Nico because I was just out on the Dolphins, and I think about that trade 3 times a week, just when I need a smile, you know,
See,
need to be cheered up. I think about
my
that.
worst trade was when you convinced me to trade Waddle for Baker Mayfield
Oh my
or
God,
Baker
this
Mayfield for
again.
Waddle, and that keeps me awake
I
every night.
It's a value game, and you were getting the value at the time, so I told you to do it.
Hindsight is
This is outcome bias if I've ever seen
at
it. That's
100%.
what I'm calling this.
But I'll still hold you to it because it hurts me to even
Yeah,
think about.
that's fine. I think about that twice a week and I smile. So,
Oh no,
um,
it's a sabotage.
did you have
It's a
another?
sabotage.
Did you have another faller?
Yeah, my other faller, and this gonna have some haters because the truthers for this player are vast and fervent. It is Josh Downs. I
Yeah, not a great week one.
Yeah, and I don't think there's. I feel like Tyler Warren cuts into Josh Downs' target share the most, whereas uh, Pittman has his role. Even Alec Pierce had a valuable role week one. Like it's clear that he has a role in the offense and has kind of like his workload that he'll get. Uh,
Hmm.
but all of that underneath stuff that where Josh Downs really worked, that's gonna get all gobbled up by Tyler Warren. So I'm pretty down on Josh Downs, pun intended, I guess. Um, and I'm not sure where you stand on that, but I just have a hard time figuring out how he'll work in this offense and actually get volume when Tyler Warren is just like he's just a volume monster.
Yeah, I think the usage week one does worry me a little bit. He was purely only the slot role, like he wasn't doing anything else. So anytime they're not in 11 personnel, he's not on the field, right? Because they're just not playing him outside because they have Pierce and Pittman. And I'm sure they still like Adonai Mitchell a little bit. They drafted him in the second round. That was this regime. So
Yeah.
it's just like you said, he's competing for those short area targets with somebody who is just. It's not Josh Downs' fault that Tyler Warren is so good. He just happens to be so good, and he's taking those opportunities away. I think with Josh Downs, I would wait and see. I do think he's fallen. I am scared, but I wouldn't be trying to, like with Jalen Waddle. I am trying to get literally anything I can possibly get for him right now.
Yeah.
Josh Downs, I'll try. I think I'd wait another week, see if in a different game environment maybe they need Tyler Warren in the blocking game a little more. Like things can happen where I think Josh Downs can emerge a little bit. But if he's just playing the slot role the entire year, that's going to be very tough.
Yeah. And
So I wouldn't blame anybody for trying to get
we
out.
may see defenses try to bracket Tyler Warren and
Exactly.
make more of an effort to shut him down now that there's tape on how he's going to be used. So I guess if I'm a Josh Downs owner, I'm holding him and hoping that happens to create some kind of selling window for me in a game where a team sells out for Tyler Warren and maybe frees up Josh Downs a little bit. But that's the only way I can
Yeah.
see him being productive. I don't think he can. carve out a meaningful role in this offense as long as Tyler Warren's there to take a lot of those short and intermediate plays.
Yeah, and Daniel Jones is not the quarterback that's gonna provide fantasy value for two wide receivers and a tight end. It's just not gonna
No.
maybe he
You
did
mean
it.
three
Well, he
wide
didn't even in week
receivers?
one,
Don't
but
you're knocking Alec Pierce out already?
Alec Pierce. Oh my god.
Two catches for 80 yards, Alec Pierce.
Literally, I mean, Daniel Jones isn't throwing the bombs that Anthony Richardson was last year. So Alec Pierce is out of luck. Unfortunately, he's just doing cardio out there this year. So to close out today's show, and we're gonna make this a weekly thing. We're gonna do an in-season Dynasty strategy corner. Okay, so basically, we believe that in-season management of your Dynasty roster is an under-discussed but very important aspect of playing Dynasty. We could talk about player values forever, right? But how can we get the most out of that information to then take action in your league, right? And I sort of see this as a blend of redraft and dynasty, right? Where you're looking at the season in the context of just, in this case, 2025, in order to best manage your team for the long term. And so I think, Tags, you have our first strategy here that you want to give to the people.
Yeah, I think it's important because really I think what I have the most fun with Dynasty is it's kind of like the stock market in a way. You're trying to find the best time to sell a player and the best time to buy a player. And that's what kind of allows you to build up value and be able to get an edge over all the other teams is if you can find those right players, when to sell them, when to buy them, to kind of create a surplus of value on your side. And for me, I like to kind of target those buy and sells around defenses, the term that we don't really like to talk about in fantasy football. um, I think it's important to get kind of key in on what defenses are good against what skill players, and then what defenses are bad against different kinds of players. And using those windows of defensive matchups, those create buy and sell windows. So if I'm looking at a player, you could see a player that goes up against, like, honestly, you could see Hampton this year. Hampton against the Chiefs. Chiefs have a pretty good run defense. Hampton struggled getting it going on the ground, and that might have dipped his stock a bit this week. I don't
Quite a bit of overreaction on Hampton this week.
100%, which really you just need to find one owner in your league that'll overreact.
Yeah.
So, but I think it's important to target good and bad defenses and kind of go in knowing this might create a good buy window or might create a sell window for me. So, I guess an example of it this week is we had Travis Etienne going against the Panthers. Um, might be a sell window. Panthers are a bad defense. Same with, I feel like anyone who plays against the Dolphins, sell them. If you're trying,
Josh
if
Downs.
you're for Josh Downs, exactly.
Except he didn't produce against the Dolphins,
No,
so
which
maybe
is
that's
even
worse.
more worrisome. But I just think it's important to target the good and bad defenses and also pay attention to the defenses because defenses has the most volatility year after year. Just because the defense was bad last year doesn't mean they're same bad defense this year. Could be coaching changeover, scheme changeover, could be different players coming in. So I think usually the first 4 to 5 weeks of fantasy, I'm always just kind of have it in the back of my head, tracking kind of the progress of each defense so I can find those defenses to target.
I really like that. I like that a lot. I think that a lot of people in Dynasty, because it's a long term game, they're really hesitant to move players in season right?
Yeah.
That they like the term outlook
Because you
of.
draft them,
And
you want to have the feeling of like calling your shot on a player.
exactly, exactly. And one thing that I always do, I do this every year on all of my contending teams. Later in the year when we get to weeks 11, 12, 13, and we can talk about this again when we get there. But when you're looking at weeks 15 through 17 for the fantasy football playoffs, it is absolutely okay to make a trade within a tier from a guy that you really like to another guy that, maybe you don't love the outlook for as much, but he has an incredible schedule, right? One guy's going into the playoffs and he's playing, three of the bottom eight run defenses, right? And so you make a move for him. And I think that a lot of people don't look at schedules. They don't look at matchups as much in a dynasty context because you're not just playing for one season, right? You're playing for hopefully 10 plus,
Yeah.
right? And I just think that those types of things of just because it's dynasty doesn't mean you can't look at some things through the context of 2025, right? Because you want to win a chip right now, right? Dynasty you might play for 10 years, but championships are forever. And
Hey man, draft picks
so
are
if you
forever if
can
you use them right.
draft picks are forever as well. So I think that it makes complete sense to make a move, not disregarding dynasty value. Obviously, you use it in the trade, but have it not be the basis of the trade, if that makes sense. Target those good matchups, target those bad defenses, and you can make lateral moves that can win championships in dynasty.
And also, there's a lot of years where if I know I'm not a contender, if I'm trying to sell, look at what players you have and then look at their schedules. So you find, oh, Jordan Mason is going to be playing against the Dolphins, Saints, and Bengals for the championship weekend. That's a huge selling point to pitch that to a contending team. And it's a good way to
Mm,
like using manipulating that matchup schedule can get you more value added on top if you know how to sell it. Which all comes back to knowing the schedules, knowing the teams to target, and then just using that information and laying it out to another team owner where it's like, hey, you're clearly a contender, you're a playoff guy. I saw you could use a running back. This running back is playing this schedule. Um, can you give me a late first for him? Because he's going to have
yeah.
running back one numbers for those 3 weeks, and that's all that matters to a contending team is how much production can I squeeze out of that playoff schedule, and that's such a easy
Hmm.
selling point if you're a selling team to pitch a player to a contending team to kind of build a surplus of assets that way. And the basis of being able to do that is just knowing that matchup schedule and also those matchup weaknesses and strengths. And also, if you're a contender,
Yeah.
you might see, oh, all my running backs have the worst schedule possible for the playoffs. Maybe I need to pivot and flip them for a different running back or flip them for a different piece. So I think it's just
Yeah,
overall awareness of your team and the matchups that your team is going to be going against.
yeah, absolutely. And I think that, you know, at the end of last season, you could have pivoted from a similar tiered running back to a Jonathan Taylor, right? Who I don't even like that much, but would have won me a championship if I had decided to do that because he had such a good schedule, right? Things like that, where just being armed with information is always a good place to be in. And I really want to hammer home this point of just mix the redraft with dynasty. Even if you don't play redraft, try and get into some stuff. Listen to somebody who's talking about players to target in the championship weeks. You know, those types of things can really make the difference for your roster.
Also, if you are a contending team, you are playing redraft. That's how you're going to win the
That's
championship.
exactly,
And
absolutely,
if you're not a contending team,
absolutely.
if you're punting, that makes it even more valuable for being able to maneuver those pieces into higher value if you know how to sell it to that other competing team. So I think it's just valuable overall. And something I'd recommend is just keeping an eye on defenses and starting to see the trends of what players are productive against what defenses. Because usually those trends hold up through the year. So I think it's valuable to try to see those trends happening the earliest possible so you can take advantage of them.
I really like that. I like that a lot. My in-season dynasty strategy is actionable. No, well, no. I'll say it's inactionable in that it involves inaction. So I think the most important thing that you can do early in the season is just be a sponge, right? Soak up all the information that you're getting, watch on Sunday, listen to whatever you're listening to, hopefully this pod, um, and just soak up all that information in the first few weeks before you start to make any moves in terms of the biggest thing here for me is first year players, rookies. I remember a few years ago, I was new to the Dynasty space. I had been playing for very long. And after week 1 in 2023, I sold Puka Nakua for Rashad White and a second. And I thought I was a bandit. I thought that I was just taking this guy's lunch money, that he was overreacting to this week 1 performance from a 5th round pick, and that I was going to, this is the easiest game of all time, right? It is almost always better in season to wait for more information. Always. Be patient with players who have unknown values. At that point in time after week 1, nobody had any clue what Puka Nakua's value was. And that's why these guys are so hard to move early in the season, because before week 1, I mean, there was a little hype in camp, but Puka Nakua was a 4th round rookie pick, if not undrafted, right? Post week 1, he has 17 targets or whatever he had. Nobody has any idea how to value him. Give it a few weeks, right? A problem I've had is moving on from rookies too quickly mid-season, right? We know that they take some time to come on. They take some time to get acclimated with the offense, right? Some rookies aren't making any impact until the final however many weeks of the season. And I don't mean to rip any Band-Aids off, but we know that, I know personally that Tags has a horror story with Bucky Irving. And
I don't want to talk about
so
it. I'm out of here. Get me out of here.
Last year, I sold Brian Thomas Jr. in a league right around the trade deadline of that league. It must have been like week 12 or 13. I was a competing roster. I was trying to win a championship, and Trevor Lawrence had just gotten injured. And I was like, Mac Jones is not going to win me this championship with Brian Thomas. And so I sold him. I'm not 100% sure. I'm pretty sure this was the deal. I got Calvin Ridley, a late first, and Kate Otten. I needed a tight end, and Kate Otten was fine. That looks terrible now. Absolutely awful. Brian Thomas is a 3 first-round pick type of asset, if not more. And that's because I didn't give an unknown asset in Brian Thomas a chance to show me what he actually was, right? And so there are some cases where you can get value and then the guy sucks, and that's great. But I think it's way more often that these guys get moved before they break out, just because, like, to me, I viewed Brian Thomas as an extra first round pick on my roster, right? Because that's around where his value was, a random first. I didn't have a first. And I'm moving Brian Thomas as this, future asset so that I can compete right now, right? And I think that's where I would caution, just wait. Let them show you what they are. Be patient, right? And young players, especially the highly drafted guys, they will hold value, even in a subpar rookie season, right? Like, you look at Keon Coleman this offseason, like, he was still like a 2nd round rookie pick value.
Which is basically what you bought him for. So, like, at the worst, you'd be getting
Exactly.
back the same price you paid into him.
Yeah, and so I think that my point here, my gospel here is, going forward, I am going to be way more cautious with involving these specific types of assets in trades, right? Let them move somebody else. Find somebody else. Let a Bucky Irving in week 8, let a Brian Thomas in week 11 show you what their true value is. as opposed to moving on at the lowest point there could possibly be, because a guy like that will not lose value.
To add on to that, I think it's important to key in on players that have opportunity. With Puka, it was clear there was an opportunity in that offense for him. There was like those Cooper Cup, and then there was like nobody on that offense. Same with
Mm-hmm.
Keon Coleman. There's a big opportunity in that offense for him. Egbuka, there's a clear path of opportunity in that offense for him.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Guys I'm lower on, like Burden, Loveland, it's they're not necessary to be productive in that offense. So I'm more willing to move off with them if the price is right. But I think if you're when you're evaluating those picks and those players, before you move off of them, you just kind of have to see like what's the opportunity? Is there an opportunity for them to be productive? Because a lot of rookie players, they just don't have an opportunity to be productive. There's too many high-ranking people in front of them. They're not going to be able to get to leapfrog that many people on the depth chart. Not going to be a lock for production and volume because they're not needed to be that productive of a player. So I think when you're looking for those players, I kind of key in on targets where it's like, okay, I see a clear path of opportunity for this player. And if there isn't one, I'm much more reluctant to buy in.
Yeah, I think honestly, I think Colston Loveland could absolutely fall in this category where it takes a while to get going. There's so much target competition at the beginning, but second half of the year, he's playing 80-85% of the snaps. Cole Kmet is nowhere to be found, and he comes on really strong towards the end of the year, right?
Yeah.
And if you move him in week 7 at his late first value, you're just doing yourself a disservice, because that is the floor. It won't go lower. He's going to, there's always going to be the excuses of target competition, top 10 pick, all this stuff. These guys hold value. There's no need to sell at the lowest point, right? And so,
And also a lot of those players, like, what's the point of selling? You're getting you're getting back the same price you paid into them when the
yeah.
goal of most trades is to find a way to create an opportunity for you to gain a surplus of value. And that's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people will take that as, oh, I gotta fleece somebody. But really, I think it's just being smart of when to sell a player, when to buy a player, and kind of evaluating the player's situation as a whole rather than just looking at it's easy to go into sleeper, look at the game logs and be, oh, this guy put up
Mm-hmm.
8 points here, 9 points here. I think that's kind of a lazy way to show the whole story of a player, especially because we're playing in 2 to 3 4 year windows. So
Yeah.
it's for me, it's evaluating that path of opportunity and then weighing that with how much it's going to cost and what I could get for the cost I would pay for that player.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that is going to be it for us on this second episode of the Dynasty
Our
Arsenal.
goal was to keep it a bit
Thank you so.
shorter, and
We failed miserably,
man, we
and
could we
so
could
we'll try.
we're gonna need to start doing bonus pods and stuff because we could just talk about Dynasty for hours.
Forever, dude, for hours. So yeah, I mean, yeah, we'll try and fail again next week, I'm sure. If you are looking for anything bonus, I am going to be doing a weekly, much shorter video. That's going to be on the Sammy Stacks YouTube channel, just recapping my Flock League week kind of thing. Sort of a more candid approach, what isn't going to be in the Flock League videos, where that's, all this big, crazy, woohoo stuff. Just talking about moves I'm making, things I'm thinking about. I figured some people might be interested in that. So I'm going to be doing that. Keep an eye out. I'll put a link in the description. I will also link the Flock League for anybody who wants to see that. And yeah, we really appreciate you listening. We will see you all next week.
See ya.